Hey everyone, Gary here again from Demi Gods, and today I'm going to look at how I put drums and bass together. This one particular example being a remix I did of a track called My Friend Roy by Deus Ex Machine, which you can get on Beatport. And so let's have a look at what I've done. Okay, so this is going to be the main rhythm section here, and I suppose you could call the chorus. So that's where the drums are most busy and where the bass is most prominent. So I thought I'd focus in on this. So let's get straight in. Kick drums, well, what can I say? I generally have thousands of samples on my hard drive, which I've picked up from all over the place. Some are sampled directly off records, some are from the sample libraries you can get free. Sometimes they're free to download off the internet, sometimes I get them through magazines. Just a whole host of ones really. I try not to have too many. That sounds like I'm a kleptomaniac of kick drums. The more you have, the longer it's going to take you to choose one. So it's probably best to have 5 awesome ones that you like and use the same ones. And that way you tend to carve your own sound as well if you use the same elements often enough. Right, so my kick on its own naked. See, I've soloed it here. I've taken all the effects off. Sounds like this. So I quite like the punchiness of it. It's got good high end. This is the original sample. It's good high end, thumpy, but it's a little bit dry, maybe a little bit rough, needs a bit of EQing. So that's usually the first thing I do. This is the EQ I've done to it. Now switching that on, you can hear it's a bit punchier now. I've taken out any sort of low, rough rumble and taken out a little bit of muddy lower mids there. That's a pretty standard thing to do. And I've just raised the high, around about 1500, 2000 kilohertz section of the kick, just to let that little snap come through a little bit more, and obviously then just taken off with a shelf up there, any fuzzy uppers. Next thing, glue compressor. To be honest, it could be any compressor. I'm not fussed about which compressors I use. They're all pretty much of a muchness. You know, if you can hear the difference between compressors, you're more of a geek than me. The built-in glue compressor from Ableton is fantastic. It does the job really well. It just gives it that little bit more punch. It's going to be more consistent in the mix. Okay, and we're going to come to this. You see I've got a waves compressor here. I love the CLA 3A. It sounds excellent over a drum group. So because this is a drum rack, I'm gonna save that till the very end. That's just going to help glue all of the elements of the drum kit together. Okay, so we've got that going. Notice I've also got a utility here. Let's switch that on. All this is doing simply is just making the drum completely mono and sit very central into the mix. That's what we want. Okay, let's move on to the next drum. So I've got, let's just solo this one. This is a snare I've chosen. Again, I always favour punchy snares with a good crack, something that's going to cut through nicely. Standard compression there, just a little bit, just to help it sit in the mix that little bit more. Based on a DMX drum machine, that snare that's come from. Next. Okay, closed hats. Sounds pretty average, nothing special there. Now this is the first instance of a compressor we're going to use with the side chain from the kick. See, audio's coming from side kick. Quite often I have a channel, a track completely dedicated to the side chain. And that's just going to be a copy of the wave kick that I'm using as part of the kit. So you can hear straight away that's helping to duck the hat every time the kick hits. So let's put these elements together so far. Yeah, so the closed hat now is sitting much nicer with everything. Open hat, that's just going to usually be at the end of a phrase. There you go. Open hat wise, effects on that, nothing. I mean, sometimes the samples, I should turn this down a little bit. sometimes the samples are really good enough in the first place, and you don't need to do any EQ on them at all. And if it sounds good, you know, really trust your ears. If it sounds good and it sits in the mix well, just leave it as it is. The more effects you're going to put on things is going to drain down the processing power and slow everything down anyway, so cleaner the better. Okay, let's add in percussion here. You just heard it then. I love little offbeat stuff like that. Again, it's had no effects on there. Sounds good enough as it is on its own. So just a little bit of something there to add a little more interest to the whole beat. Don't know what that is. That might not come in this section. Okay, and then we've got the clap. We haven't got the clap literally, that would be terrible. Okay, effects on this one. So just cut down the low end of it. Compression, quite a bit there. Reduce the threshold quite a lot there, so it's punching up a little bit more. And this is something I got downloaded from somewhere actually, the Widener. This is a nice way of stereo spreading it. Two instances of the same sound, but obviously on one of them we've got a delay, a very, very, very short delay, so it just helps give that spread. The last thing I wanted to look at is the group effect I use for the whole kit, the Compressor CLA 3A by Waves. It's really good, and the preset Start Me Up really helps glue the elements of the drum kit together and sit it beautifully in the mix. So let's hear it without first of all, and then adding the effect. So there, I particularly like it because it really accentuates the kick and the higher transients of the group. And you can rest assured having that over the top of your drum group elevates the kit fantastically.